All right, it's on. We're live.
To understand what's happening, and this man scheduled an episode of his podcast with his wife coming home. You know what I'm saying? International travel. We ain't supposed to be here. You do what you do. I said I've never in all my days. Yeah, we rolling.
Make no mistake, baby, you fucking with the best of them. My elevator couple knock the snot about the rest of them. So if you doubt the kid got hard up in his chest pops, you got me fucked up like ex-cops and gem pop.
Welcome to
Episode 3.
the Chris Gabo Show. I have one of my nearest and dearest here, Alani Alongwe. Say hello to the people.
What to do?
When you first got into hip hop, right, in Fort Myers, what artist was that? Like, who were you guys listening to? What was in Fort Myers, Florida at that time? What years?
Oh shoot, I probably can't even give you the years. I feel like somebody would have to give me the years. But like I just remember. I remember there was a song called "Ride That Donkey." Do you remember "Ride That Donkey"?
See, I knew it was gonna be some regional shit like
That's
this.
what I'm saying. You know what I mean? It's like, and like, you know, my cousins and like my uncles and all that, they gonna probably be like, "How you don't know who sung "Ride That Donkey"?" But all I know is like, we used to love this song and play it all the time. Right, and I'm not gonna like go as far as to say it was like my introduction. It was 69 Boys. Okay, cool. So it was the 69 Boys, and like, it wasn't my introduction to like hip hop, but I just remember sitting with my cousins and playing like the single of the tape of that over.
He said tape.
And over.
See, this is the
the
old head shit that I wanted to hear.
Like over, and it's like you know for the folks at home who don't know what tapes are, right? Like, you know, I remember like when we were small, right? My uncles and my mom and my auntie, they would talk about like, you know, the 8 tracks and the blah 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 and all these things, and we were like, what the hell are y'all talking about, right? But for us, it was like tapes, and like you used to get the tape with the single on it, but the single might have had 1 or 2 other songs that were on it as well, but like maybe 2 songs were on one side, and then you had to flip it over and get to the other 2 songs. It was like one of those, and it was like probably like, you know, the original version of the song and then like an edit of the song and maybe a remix of the song. Yeah. We played that thing over and over again. So
in the car, or like you have a tape player at the house?
This is at the house. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't on like, you know, one of the adults' stereo, right? It was like on a boombox that one of the cousins had. And like, you know, do all our dances and everything. Like now that I know that it's 69 Boys, it just blows my mind. Cause I'm just like, yeah, of course it was 69 Boys. But like listening to 69 Boys, listening to like all the Quad City DJs, right? Like all those like mixtapes that they had, right? The bass CDs that we used to call them, like JD, early JD, right? You know, like Crisscross, you know, like all that type stuff is like what we would bump.
See, like JD and Crisscross, that stuff that people might be aware of. Other stuff, it's interesting. Like I didn't realize how regional my taste was until I was actually a group that you're going to hear later on at the 30-minute mark, Black Christoph, one of my favorite groups out of Chicago. I was hanging out with some of them. We were doing like a little rap retreat. And this is one of the topics that I'm going to come back to about how sort of like, I mean, we met through acting shit, right?
Yep.
But how like music and acting and like our theater stuff, there's a similar sort of energy around like togetherness and retreat and, you know, understanding the world through each other. And, you know, not to like get super conscious in the cipher this early, but, you know, there's that Saul Williams quote where he says, you know, dear mother, I wasn't breastfed and all of my conversations with men seem to revolve around music. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a clear analog to that in our Labyrinth days and the theater days and all that stuff, but we're going to come back to that. Mm-hmm. I want to say one thing about the regional thing. So when I was we were in Madison, Wisconsin. Shout out Nate Marshall. Shout out Sean Peace. We were working on some stuff in a little retreat environment, and I kept bringing up songs that I thought people knew. Like I brought up like Tampa Tony, and they were like,
Tampa Tony.
Say that name again. We don't know who that is.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I know exactly. But like, so it was. I was like, okay. So they had Keep It Jukin' in.
Keep It Jukin', yeah. Jukin'.
Good looking. Yo.
Yeah.
I want to sample that now.
Oh, that's hot.
Because you can't. That song's not on Spotify.
Really?
It's fucked up. Something happened. I don't know. It's some sort of right situation. I can find it on. It's a YouTube video with literally like a picture of the vinyl. It's like
that's hilarious.
I don't know why that is the case. Maybe it's back on Spotify, but the last time I checked, it was not. Do you know what rated R is?
Yeah.
Okay. C, not someone I can relate to.
Come on, man. Also, it's like, you know, we bring up like, you know, JD and all these folks, right? But like also like, you know, we got to shout out like Uncle Luke, you know what I mean? Right. Like,
but those are national names.
Yeah. It's like those are the people that people like think of. But like when, I don't know, I had like a interesting conversation in New York, actually, like randomly on the set of some random short film. And like I was sitting in the van with a dude and like randomly we're just sitting there. He's like, where you from? And I'm like, Florida. And he's like, you ain't from Florida. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then to prove that I was from Florida, he basically tests me by just going, now back in the days, and then just stops. And then I rap the rest of this Trick Daddy verse for him just to prove that I'm from Florida. You know what I mean? Like,
that's beautiful.
It's amazing.
That's beautiful. Who are your top? I want to see. Okay, this is a very specific question. I can only ask you. Top 5 rappers turned actors based on their acting abilities.
Top 5 rappers turned actors based off rapping ability.
No, off their acting ability.
Acting ability. Well, all right. I'm going to throw in, when we talk about the acting ability, I'm also going to sprinkle in their longevity.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just so that, because if it's just acting ability, there's a lot of folks who have been doing it for like 20, 30 years who ain't making the cut. Right?
Wait, don't say Ice-T's name like that, bro.
I'm just saying. It's like the fact that you knew.
Yo, from 6 a.m.
But I'm going to say this, though. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to say this, right? It's like, we still got to put some respect on Ice-T's name.
No, 100%,
you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Because I say this, right? It's like the beautiful hip hop inspired melodrama that was not only his portrayal of whatever his character's name was on New York Undercover, but also before he killed that character. He killed it. And then before that, if you go to like New Jack City, you know what I mean? Like you watch it and it's like, it seems like just a little bit over the top, but you're also like, nah, but it's kind of very early 90s what he is doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, by the time he's throwing Wesley Snipes down out a window and down a fire escape, you know what I mean? Like you believe he's going to kill this dude after everything you've seen. So like now I'm okay with him collecting the check.
Well, can we just talk about the check first? I'm going to go back to this, but
yes.
Someone told me the other day that Mariska Hargitay is like the richest actress in the world.
I think she is, right?
I think that's true. So imagine Ice-T is in that conversation. Because he's been on that fucking show for like, bro,
Ice-T.
Syndicated?
Yeah, oh God.
Dick Wolf could start a private army. Like, no, you think about the money, bro. It's insane. It's insane. But okay, based on you're gonna add longevity, but I want to hear. I want to hear who you think can act out of the people who
can actually act.
Yes,
rappers who can actually act. I mean, Mos Def had a nice run.
He went to like NYU or something, didn't he?
I don't know where Mos went. Like,
I feel like he did an MFA or something, or I'm making that up.
I feel like I heard Talib was there for a little bit.
I've never heard that.
I don't know about Mos Def.
But Mos Def was on Broadway.
He was on Broadway.
He was in Top Dog Underdog. So that's like,
you know what I mean?
Better
and it's
than
like
MFA.
We probably just made up some things. I think Pac was pretty good. You know what I mean? I don't know if he cracks my top 5 as actors, but like his ability to like bring whatever version of himself, right? And
hold on a second. I need to tell the people at home that bring whatever version of himself is Alani's version of a sneak diss. That's what he intended. Yo, my favorite Alaniism is like, that's a personality, and you brought a version of your personality to
listen.
it. Is it acting? I don't know. So,
no, like in some cases, let me break this down for the kids at home. In my humble opinion, right? It's like I think that we throw a lot of dirt on quote unquote personality actors because we don't really fully talk about or explore the full range of like what a personality actor is. Right? When we
Break it
talk
down.
about personality actors, you know, I guess if you're coming from like an acting school or something, right? It's like, well, that's not character acting, and character acting is the real thing. Cool, right? But there are some actors out there who understand the business of acting so well that they realize that, well, if I want to feed my children, right, for a long period of time, well, I need to figure out what is most marketable,
Yep.
right, for who I am. What is my brand? And then I say that those actors who understand that brand, they can still explore a full spectrum of human emotions and experiences within it, right? For instance, Denzel Washington, right?
Interesting.
I would say Denzel early in his career, coming from like theater and doing, you know, his thing at Fordham and all this stuff, right? Like very much a leading man character actor, right? It's like anyone at home who hasn't seen Glory, go watch Glory, right? Some folks are probably being like, you know, what's the first movie? Cry Freedom. They're like, what about Cry Freedom? And I'm just like, no, go watch Glory. Because Glory was the first film that I saw him in where he killed every scene.
Yeah.
Like to the point where he was stealing scenes. Like it would like Morgan Freeman and like, you know, Courtney B. Vance or something would be like talking to each other in the foreground, and in the background he would just be back there like picking at his toes or something. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, I'm interested in the dude picking at his toes. Yep. You know what I mean? But every scene he killed, murdered it. And then somewhere along the lines, right, when he starts, you know, wins his Oscar and starts getting more big budget films and leading roles and all this stuff, right, you start seeing Denzel playing more of what the Denzel we know today, right? That very cool leading man guy. Does it make sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, as the years go by, fewer and fewer we kind of see him playing characters, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we see him play Malcolm X, and then years go by and we see him play Reuben Hurricane Carter, and then we see him in Training Day, right? And folks can say that Training Day might be like, you know, his personality to the max, and I look at that and I'm saying, well,
I think that's a character part.
It's a character
that was written
part.
for a non-black Latino actor, or it was like a cop. That's why he's licking his lips and all this poppy shit the whole time. It was a real guy.
Alonzo, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
Come on.
Like, come on, right? Jay Israel, right? Like the lawyer with Asperger's that he played, you know what I mean, right? Like Flight, you know, it's like he would sprinkle.
I had a good time at Flight. I saw Flight at the theater on 125th Street. It was like, that was one of the illest theater experiences I've ever had. When they flew that plane upside down, bro.
Hey, yo. You know what I mean, right? But it's just like he figured out a lane where, in the same way that you can argue Jack Nicholson did, you know what I mean, where he could do both things, right? I can be the leading man for you, and I can give you my swag, right? Denzel, right? The things that, you know, all the comedians on Instagram and YouTube, right? They do the quotables of him, right? When they do their Denzel
I
impressions.
love those. I'll watch those on TikTok
amazing.
for hours.
That's right, right? And then he can be like, but I also do this, and give you the character stuff, right? Yeah. So then going back to Pac, right? It's like we didn't see enough of Pac's acting to know that he could do both. Right? Mm-hmm. So that, like, you know, whether he's playing Bishop or whether, you know, it's like whatever it is, it's like there's also always like sprinkles of the thing that you've already seen either in interviews or him when he's rapping, right? Where you know this duality about him. And then you're just seeing the same thing play out in like Poetic Justice or something. Does it make sense, mm-hmm. right? But we didn't know that he can play like, I don't know, a neurosurgeon the way like Mos Def did. You know what I mean, right? Or was it a heart surgeon? You know what I mean? Like, whatever it was, we saw Mos be like, this is me with the music. This is me in an interview. This is me just walking down the street. But this is me on Broadway. This is me actually playing a three-dimensional character opposite Bruce Willis or whatever it was. Does it make sense, right?
Yeah.
And you look at that and you're just like, all right, that guy actually has chops. So I would throw Mos in there somewhere. I would say that Will Smith has.
Oh man, I almost want to count him out because I've known him as an act. Like, yes, obviously we can't count him out.
You got to put Will in there.
He's a rapper turned actor.
That's right, especially if like
I forget.
That's right, because again, right, if you put like the like if he had like a brief glimmer, right? Not that anything tragic would have had to happen, but if like he was like, all right, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is enough for me. I'm gonna go back to like rapping with Jazzy Jeff. We would have been like, cool, fantastic. Does it make sense, right? But like he did both for a while.
Yeah.
And like he was very much right. My personality wins because Will Smith has one of the most dynamic personalities ever.
Charisma more than anybody on earth.
And then at some point in life, right, like he decides that he's going to start playing characters. And we're like, yo, you don't have to. Why are you doing this? And he's like, because I actually want to be good.
Y'all don't want to hear this accent?
You know what I'm saying, right? And it's just like, and we can pick on his accent, but
I was not even, no, I like it.
I heard it. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody was like.
What was clear there? His behavior or his language?
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, he just kept getting better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is something that you can say that certain rappers turned actors didn't necessarily do because they didn't have to or they didn't want to. You know what I mean? Right. Like you could argue like someone like Ice Cube or Ice-T, mm-hmm. right? Like when they started off and they were doing these like media roles and all those things and showing you that they actually had talent for this. Then they got into a pocket where they were just like, this is the brand and it's paying the bills. I'm going to stay there. Doesn't mean that they're a bad actor. It just means that they're playing the business card. You know what I mean, right? Like for Ice Cube to go from Boys in the Hood to like doing family movies, like
that's a really ill transition.
What I mean?
That's dope.
That's dope. You know what I'm saying? So like, there'll be like a different category for like just the successful folks, right? But I think Mos Def, Will Smith, Queen Latifah.
Yep.
Queen Latifah is not talked about enough, right? Nope. Like she can do the thing. And then it gets hard.
Wait, okay, it's interesting because it's funny that you think it gets hard for me.
Because maybe I ain't thinking hard enough, but give me some names.
Well, actually, you're reminding me that a lot of people that I think of now as actors rapped, right? And there's like I'm going to give you some names in a second. First, I want to address the fact that it's interesting how, like, look, because hip-hop is the only genre of music that demands the autobiographical eye, right? Like, it sounds like an insult if you tell...
I will say, not to cut you off,
no,
you
please.
Should continue, but I will say... I think you got to put a little respect on LL's name too.
I was 100%, bro.
Because LL also shows you that he has the potential to play the different sides of his personality too, right? In the way that a Pac had, but his longevity, right? Like he just did it for so much longer. You know what I mean? Like Deep Cover, like him in Deep Cover. Oh God. You know what I mean? Like, he's terrifying in that movie.
Speaking of movies with the word deep in it, and he was also in Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea?
You know what I mean? Really remember him from an episode of House MD, bro.
He was in House?
Yo, he was all, and I was like, who's this handsome black guy? I was like, oh, that's LL Cool J.
You know what I mean? And it's like on his, like, what, NCIS is a show that he's on? He's been on for like...
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think he's been on like NCIS or something for like 3,005 years, right? Like it's been forever. Because also, like, I don't know if you know this, but like LL is technically the second oldest person on the planet. Maybe the third.
What?
Right?
What are you talking about?
No, I'm serious. Like LL Cool J, he's a vampire and he's the third oldest person on the planet. He is. Number 2 is like Clint Eastwood. Number 1 is Clint Eastwood's mom. Like he's so old. You know what I'm saying? And he looks so young. It's ridiculous, right? Number 4 might be Pharrell. I'm just saying.
No, my number 4 definitely is Pharrell.
You know what I mean?
That I can attest to.
But no, I think LL he deserves, right? Because it's like he still brings like a commitment and a gravitas to like primetime TV, right? Where you can tell he's putting in the work. But then when you put him in a movie, whether it's a romantic comedy or whether like he's playing a drug kingpin, it's like his commitment to it is what kind of like pushes him over the edge for me, you know?
No, 100%. And it's like, okay, I want to go back to my earlier point that I want to put these things together. No, give it a shot. But I think LP might have said this, something to the effect of basically about how like in hip hop, because it's the only Johnny Cash didn't go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kiss doesn't like wake up in the morning. They're like, that's just how I look. I paint my face white and have black stripes on it. Like,
Right.
you don't expect that. You allow for theatricality there, right? And in hip hop, it's like, especially, you know, from our generation, it's like if you didn't go through it, it's an insult to write about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then if you call someone like, you know, not this is an easy name to throw, but it's like when people talk about like, you know, Drake's greatest acting performance is Drake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's meant as a diss, but as actors, we also know that there's like a great deal of actual reality in that. And it's like, it's all, nobody, with the exception of Cole, nobody can pull off, I'm a guy you can relate to, and also please buy these records and I'm going to sell out stadiums. People want larger than life character. You know what I mean? And obviously that can have racial and socioeconomic implications in the types of things that we exaggerate and who encourages you to exaggerate what. But the reality is that it's all drama. It's all theater, right? So like, that's why I think that, and it's something that I sometimes hesitate to talk about because it sounds like I'm dissing someone by being like, oh, they're an actor because they're acting in the raps. I'm like, no, man, like you are it's you, dude. The voice acting that you do, like that is that's essentially the same thing that people are doing in these records. You know what I mean? Like, you know that Dre is in there, whoever like directing people. Those are like the producers that are really getting. They're getting. It's in the name. They're getting a performance out of you. You know what I mean? So I think that that's part of why, like, a lot of time. I mean, I know some people are like, oh, like every rapper tries to like act in Act 2 of their career or whatever. But I'm like, they should. Like a lot. Did you see Young M.A. in Rada Blank's movie?
No, but I think Jaquita told me about it. I think she said she was.
Check it out. It's just like her doing a Shakespeare monologue or something, but it's like I got chills. I was like, yo, I would love to put Young M.A. in something. You know what I mean? Like, just I think she's we can't put her in that category because she hasn't been in a bunch of stuff, but somebody who's been in a little bit of stuff that I can put in a category is Method Man. I think about like his little arc on The Wire, and I was like, oh, shit.
Jeez.
Yo, he's so good in that. And it's like, I'm trying to think of, okay, so weirdly, he's on a top of my list somewhere.
I got a 5, by the way.
Oh, give it to me.
I got a 5. My 5, I got a 5 and I got a 6-man. My 5 would be DMX.
Oh, shit.
My 5 would be X, right? And it's kind of controversial because you could argue that you could leave DMX out of the top 5 for the same reasons that you would leave Pac out. But for me, DMX had like an undeniable commitment, and he at least gave us a role, right? Whatever that movie was with Michael Ealy, Exit Wounds or something like that.
Yeah.
He at least gave us a role, right, where we could see him pushing towards character work.
Yep.
Right? On top of the fact that he did a wider range of movies than, say, Pac would do. Right? My man had action martial arts movies. My man was in a movie opposite Jet Li and like another,
that's a crazy thing that I like forget sometimes.
And Steven Seagal. You know what I'm saying, right?
Steven Seagal part I don't care about, but the Jet Li thing is cool.
Jet Li, you know
that's
what I'm saying?
fucking awesome.
So like there's that, and then you have like this grounded, right, you know, crazy movie, right, like with Michael Ealy, you know what I'm saying? And then you have like Belly. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like he's giving us a bit of everything, and in all of them, no matter what he's doing,
Belly's
you
such a
believe
crazy.
him. Crazy.
That's such a crazy, like
92-hour like music video, like crazy.
You know what's interesting? What I'm realizing, I mean, obviously, okay, you have a larger breadth of knowledge of like actors, like whole arcs. Like I'll be like, I can fake it sometimes. I'm like, oh, I've seen 3 of those movies. But I tend to like glom on to. I'm really touched by like cameos, like things like small bit parts stand out to me.
Okay.
Obviously, Cheese is not a cameo, but I think of like Snoop in Training Day.
Snoop gets honorable mention.
Yo. And
Snoop gets honorable mention.
The thing is, you know what it is? This is the reason why that is very moving to me, is because every rapper wants to play a tough guy in a movie because they also are tough guys on the record. Snoop plays a crackhead who gets a pen stuck down his throat. You know what I mean? Like in a wheelchair and shit. I was like, that's not a glamorous part, and it's gorgeous.
Also, we know you wasn't really a crackhead, Snoop. You know what I'm saying? He's just saying because the crack came out your mouth that, you know, it's like... It's
no, in the movie.
He was distributed is what he's saying. You know what I mean? And
but
but I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
I
just want to clarify my man's role. You know what I'm
listen.
saying?
Okay.
Chris Rock was the crackhead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just saying... Okay, let me put this a different way. To see a guy... Okay, you know what? Let's pretend I'd never heard Doggy Style and I just saw the movie.
You'd be like, who's that actor? You'd be like, who's that actor? Who's that new guy?
Because what I'm getting at is it's vulnerable.
Yes.
And obviously the greatest rappers are usually giving you something extremely angular and tough and something extremely vulnerable. And the guys that don't stand the test of time are the guys that are only giving you tough. That's why with DMX, it's like, bro, like there. I think it was on the Barbershop or something. Jay was talking about opening up for DMX, and he's like, "We're the greatest rappers of all time, maybe the greatest rapper of all time." And he was like, "Yo, going on after DMX, I'm like, I can rap, but DMX is sobbing and praying to God to save him, and you're like, yo, what am I supposed to do after that?
Bro, it's like I mean, listen, I don't know what it's like to go on stage, right, and rap after DMX. I know what it's like to listen and bump DMX in my car, listen to a full album. It ends with a prayer, and then for you to be like, what am I going to listen to next? I'm either going to listen to Kirk Franklin or I'm going to put on another DMX album. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it's
exactly.
like he
or listen to the sounds of the ocean.
Right.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Do after
like,
it's like the
what
ginger
do I do?
between the sashimi. It's like I can't just, I'm shaken.
That's right.
And I have to either have more of it. I have this theory. We were talking about this earlier that like the rappers that like I really connect to, their whole discography is one run-on sentence about their life. So you can jump in at any period and you're learning more. It's the same story. It's like episode 3 gajillion, right? But it's a run-on sentence. That's the hot shit. When someone is like, I don't want to say like denigrate the act of finding oneself, but you have to know what your essence is. You know, listen, I've made 600 terrible records. I've been trying to find myself in that for like a long time. So it is beautiful to watch someone grow, but the people who like actually, I don't want to get into I don't ever want to bring in the world's real and fake into the hip hop thing, because this is when like keeping it real goes wrong and like we start talking about stuff we don't mean. But I mean like real in the sense of like you have a real sense of yourself. It's not, I'm not even talking about the storytelling. I'm talking about, well, yes, the story you're telling about yourself, how you see yourself, and the themes, the characters. You know, like, why do we know who Tata is? You know what I mean? Like, why do we know who these people are? Bleak could be one way. Like, why do I, even if I've never heard of Memphis Bleak, so I know who he is and what he means. This is why I was excited to have this conversation, because, like, I want to talk about rap shit, but I was like, to talk, I mean, not to gas you on the fucking internet, but it's like, you are one of my favorite actors of all time. Really, truly. When I talk about who you are, I'm like, Alani Longway is one of the great American actors, and I don't want to hear shit about it. It just is true. Also, you and Terrell's play, shout out Terrell. I was like, Safi and I were just like, I hadn't seen you on stage in a minute. And I was like, God damn, bro, this guy is, I just love watching you work. And I know I love your eye and I love your heart and your wisdom and how you see like what people are doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, often hard work and virtuosity is so taken for granted. And like an artist like you never take it for granted, even in the observation, because you like know what the fuck, what work is being done. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, you know, it's just, all of it is drama. It's all of it is drama. All of it is risk. All of it is vulnerability. All of it is like, it's just storytelling. I used to try to like separate. Dude, I used to try to separate the parts of myself. I was like, okay, here I'm going to write a rap song. Here I'm going to write a movie. Here I'm going to write. And I was like, okay, Actually, this is actually a moving story about my wife who just came home from Mexico. Sorry, we'll be done in a second. Yeah, we'll get to the 30. Okay, all right. We'll get to the married man shit on the other side of the break. But I remember I started writing poems. Well, no, I started writing raps, and then I was writing poems as if they were two separate things, which is, it's interesting, right? Like, there was an era, kind of in the Def Jam poetry era, when people were like, poems would rhyme a little bit, and then sort of there became a split. I mean, obviously, like, the idea of, like, spoken word poetry is, like, a racist idea, because there's, like, dude, like, as if there is a difference between literary poetry and spoken poetry, you know what I mean? And that was a distinction that, Safia talks about a lot. And one of the things that I realized was, like, I was always trying to write the perfect 16. I was always trying to write a perfect chorus. I was always trying to write a song, right? I wanted to write raps. But then in school, they're like, oh, you can do poetry competition. We're like, oh, I can fucking do that. So then you would go and compete, and you would often meet other rappers who were like also doing this kind of thing that you were doing. And you would have to decide, am I going to make the poem sound like a poem, or am I going to just kind of rap a cappella? You know what I mean? And then at one point I was like, I hate this. It's not that I don't like poetry. It's just that I don't like the distinction. Just go rap. It's cooler to rap, right? And then years later, I marry a poet. And I'm like, man, I should fucking write poems again. And, Safia's poems, for anyone who has not read them, they do not rhyme. You know what I'm saying? And actually, when she talks about going to the UK on tour, like, they trip out about that. They're like, well, you're a rapper, innit? Like, oh, you want to, like, in the poetry? I'm not making fun of grime rappers. I love grime rappers, and we're gonna have some people over here in the next episode that might be able to tell us more about. I'm talking about the poets, in the white poets. Let's just be honest. The white poets in the UK that she was talking to me about were like confused, but like, why doesn't the poem rhyme, right? And that's the thing I've only heard anecdotally. I was not there, but she was expressing that this is like a distinction, right? And so. And I understand that I had internalized this distinction, because when I said, you know what, Patricia Smith is my favorite writer. I want to write a fucking poem. Let me get back into poetry, right? So I wrote a couple poems, and Safia was like, these are beautiful, but they're all lyric. And I was like, yeah, it's a poem. And she was like, no, you're a narrative storyteller. Where's the narrative? All poetry is a balance of narrative and lyric. So if there's only lyric, it's meaningless. And I was like, oh, God fucking damn it. And then I realized that I was like trying to split myself up into these boxes. And I was like, look, man, you have to split yourself into boxes when you're going to sell the thing. But when you're making the thing, you have to understand that it's all just it's just a little talent show for yourself and your friends and family. It's self-expression. It is all storytelling. And if you're not telling a story, then there's nothing in it. You know what I mean? There's nothing for anyone to hold on to. And this is kind of going back to the thing of like, the run-on sentence, right? Listen to Jay, you listen to Biggie. It's like, you can go in to, it's like if you watched episode 30 of Game of Thrones, like you might for a second be like, what's going on? And then eventually you'll tap into something that's clearly important to these people because it's well acted and it's well written and it's ongoing. That's the same thing as listening to a Biggie song if you never heard it and it's his 30th song. You're getting a narrative about him that's continuous, and this is why, like, the question to me of, like, who are the rappers that you respect as an actor, it's like, because it's a storytelling with the body, it's a storytelling with the psyche, it's a storytelling with the human spirit, and it's a thing I think about a lot, and I don't know. I couldn't even fucking name 5, but you named 5. I just named a couple, but I knew you would have a real list.
And I got a 6th man for you.
Okay, who's your 6th man?
Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
And I'm only giving him 6th man with again, right, honorable mention. And honorable mention, I would say, to like early Ice Cube, right, early Busta Rhymes. You know what I mean, right? Like, Busta Rhymes in Higher Learning is hilarious, right? Busta Rhymes in like Finding Forrester is also pretty good. You know what I'm saying, right? Like Cube was giving us a whole lot of quality films, right, in the early mid 90s. You know what I mean? But like K-Dot, like he's showing you, it's like he's showing you that he came from the school of being able to have these different voices and these different characters, right, on his albums in the same way that like Eminem did, right, and DMX did, and like all these folks, right? And then like in the storytelling that like, you know, even Snoop, right, and like Dre would bring to their albums, right? But then he's like, I can also do that in front of the camera. You know, like like what he did on, what was it, Power or whatever, right? Like the actual like seemingly crackhead that was played, you know what I mean?
Sorry, that's not what I
You
just
no,
said.
Fine,
He
fine.
put a pen in his mouth and crack
the
came out. Okay,
but doesn't mean he's a crackhead, is all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're right.
But like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't know it was him. I didn't know it was him until like I was seeing people keep playing these clips from this episode on Instagram, and I was just like, why do they keep playing this over and over again? And then I read the comments, and I was like, oh, wait, what? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was like, let me go watch it again. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, right? Like, and I think that I'm interested to see if he's interested in acting more, right? What the different roles are that might be out there for him, right? Honorable mention again, I would give the Black Thought as well. You know what I mean?
Wait,
like,
what is Black Thought in?
Black Thought was like on the Deuce for a bit, I think, along with Method Man, you know what I mean, right?
Shit, okay.
But it's like everything that I see, like he also like I believe he like wrote a musical recently.
I know about that, but I didn't know that he had acted and stuff.
Like you watch Black Thought and stuff, and you're just like, Black Thought is actually good too. You know what I mean? Like again, right? More work for us to see, right? Like give us a whole a body of work to like really look at, you know, but you can see it early on that you're just like, this is somebody who understands storytelling outside of the booth. You know what I mean?
Okay. Let's take a quick break.
That's a grenade launcher. The TSA found it in a checked bag.
Florida man, we did a couple of Zan in the family minivan, playing Settlers of Catan. Florida man, this shit could get out of hand. The PTA's in the clan, the needles up in the sand. Who the fuck is this? Just a dirty punk kid, spick with the big and the composition notebook thick under bleachers. Wild man creature, Tom G and Kaya Shimon about the speakers. At the long days of throwing chairs at the teachers, that sun hits the lungs like booyaka. New era crooked in the land of the Huracan. Hurricane season, all season, no reason. Look, posted with the queens and the daddies out of palace, and we coming for DeSantis by the bullet of the ballot. You pick. I'ma make them tuck they whole summer in, burn the fucking flag on the ad till they rushing in. Meth head looking like a ring wraith. Come and pop a bottle in the swing state. Red fair, mommy hotter than the asphalt, girl. My face tastes better than the best salt. Florida man, we did a couple of Zan in the family minivan, playing Settlers of Catan. Florida man, the shit could get out of hand. The PTA's in the clan, the needles up in the sand. They say we ain't Southern, but I doubt that. I just caught a possum in a mousetrap. Saw a Confederate flag at Outback, threw a cinder block through the window of his hatchback. What you expected from his next of kin? The Cubans wanna deport the Mexicans. Ellie and Gonzalez, he's so blessed he in. But La Migra don't want Haitians next to him. Fuck him. How we gon' be worried about the politics? Clearwater's already owned by the Scientologists. And try explaining that to a meth cooker. If it's small, it's a lizard. Real gators are 10-footers, Florida man, we did a couple of Zan in the family minivan, playing Settlers of Catan. Florida man, the shit could get out of hand. The PTA's in the clan, the needles up in the sand. Left on Nebraska, we bumpin' that Tampa Tony. If you don't keep it joking, motherfucker, you don't know me. At the Walmart, ass naked with the homies, smeared in buttercream, blue glitter and macaroni like Holy matrimony for local, a little codeine. It's 2 o'clock in the morning and we bout to do some boating. See, man, life isn't so priceless. Dude can't read but got him a boat license. Barely survived, man, I thought that was the end for me. Swerving coast guards and dodging the penitentiary. Bought a vape pen from a kid in elementary. That movie Spring Breakers like a fucking documentary. For a man, we did a couple of Zan in the family minivan, playing Settlers of Catan. For a man, the shit could get out of hand. The PGA's in the clan and needles up in the sand. For a man, we did a couple of Zan in the family minivan, playing Settlers of Catan. For a man, the shit could get out of hand. The PGA's in the clan and needles up in the sand.
Gender studies, trans people, black studies, is in Florida, those are pretty safe targets. Or they thought they would be safe targets. They didn't realize that they would have a fight back in their hands. They're kind of putting more spine into our, into our fight back. A man who lost 27 family members in the Holocaust, who banged on my door on October 14th, 2021. This man, retired Jewish colleague, told me, Paul, Florida is Germany 1930. You hold the line now or everything is lost.
We are here once again. As aforementioned, my name is Chris Gabo. This is the Chris Gabo Show. We got my man Reef Loretto on the ones and twos back there. We got Alani a long way here. I mean, please come back because this is light work for me because I don't need a fucking outline. We just need to know when to get in, when to get out.
You know what I'm saying?
You were saying something as the Black Crystal song was starting, and I was like, save it. I could tell it was going to be cool. And so I'm just going to let you pick up where you left off.
Oh, yeah. First, though, I think that when I was talking about Denzel and Glory, I mentioned like Courtney B. Vance being in the background. I'm pretty sure it was Andre Brower. But anyway, not Courtney B.
Well,
but you know what I mean?
We've been fed. Now we got to scrap the whole episode. We got to scrap the whole episode.
I just had a thought where I was thinking about how, like, you made me realize how hip hop has actually been a part of like my development as an actor, like randomly. You know what I mean? Like when you were talking about Safia and poetry, it reminded me of a teacher that I had at NYU at Strasbourg, right? Ted. I don't remember Ted's last name, but I do remember we had like our 2 acting teachers like freshman year. 2 of them were like Bill and Ted, so we were always doing that joke. But like
I almost made it thinking I was original.
But I remember Ted, like, I think I was doing like a Tennessee Williams scene or something, like whatever it was. And then like we were done and he was just like, he's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, nowadays you probably ain't gonna get cast in that. He was like, we gotta get you some black stuff in here. And I was like, thank you so much. But instead of giving me like a play first, I don't even know how we got on this conversation, but he was like, do you know The Last Poets? And I was like, I don't think so. And he was like, you don't know The Last Poets? Now, mind you, this was like around the time that like Common B was out. Mm-hmm. So like I didn't realize that I did know, you know what I mean? I didn't realize I did know The Last Poets, you know what I mean? But then I started looking them up and I was like, oh, they on the corner song with, okay, all right, yeah. So he gives me this assignment where he doesn't want me to go read some play. He wants me to go and research The Last Poets. And he wants me to listen to anything that I could find. And he wants me to bring in, right, one of their poems to perform in class. So I go home and like I spend the next week, right, going through like their entire body of work. And I find something, I can't tell you what I found. All I was like is for some reason I connect with this is dope. I bring it into class. And when I get there, my man is like he's constructed a drum. Right? Like, I think out of one of those, like, black boxes or something, right? That's awesome. Pulls it up between his feet, and he's like, all right, go. And he starts playing. He's like, doop, 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 doop. And I'm just like, yo, my man can play? Like, what's happening? You know what I mean? And, like, when I tell you, it's like, it filled me with such pride. And, like, I'm rocking this thing. I'm working off of, like, however he's going through, like, the drum. We do the whole thing, right? And we're done. He's like, yeah, how's that feel? And I'm just like, it feels like something I've never felt before. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know like performing could be this. I didn't know that this could be acting. And then from there, he's like, do you know Malcolm X? And I was like, please. And he was like, cool. Have you read the autobiography of Malcolm X? I'm like, not yet. He's like, I want you to read it this week. I read it, bring back into class. He brings me on stage. And now it's just me talking to him about what I read and my point of view on it, right? Like 20 minutes. And then at the end of that, he's like, cool. I want you to go through all of Malcolm X's speeches. Pick one. You know what I mean? Memorize it, bring it in next week, and you're going to perform it in class. And I'm like, yo, what is happening right now, right? And this off of the conversation of like, why are you doing these roles that you're not going to be cast in? You know what I mean? It was amazing.
I'm glad that my eyes fucked up and I have to be wearing dark sunglasses inside, because otherwise I'd be crying like a motherfucker, because that is so, bro, I love teachers so much and I hate teachers so much. And the reason I hate teachers is because I love teachers and I love teaching, and I've had so many good teachers and so many bad teachers. Right. And you go like, or let's put it this way. No, I've had a few good teachers and many bad teachers.
If you don't lean forward,
listen,
I told you, camera can't see you. You all lean back.
Okay, so everyone knows this L thing is supposed to make the AI camera zoom in, and so if I keep doing this shit and look stupid, it's because that's what you told me to do.
The AI crawls across the table because he's all underneath the table and we can't see him.
Listen.
I'm trying to help you out on your part.
Okay, well, hold that mic closer to your mouth. As long as we're giving fucking notes. Because you be dropping all these gems, and he's over here like,
I'm projecting.
I hope so. But I keep looking like, I don't want to interrupt you, but he's like, and then I was like, all right, hold on a second.
Can you hear me in your head? Look at that. I got the point. All right. I got the point, the thumbs up.
I had a feeling. I was like, that's why Reeva's in there. Yeah. Listen, man, the thing is, life doesn't have to be so cordoned off.
Right.
Like, because we went to school for all these things that are like, hey, if you make it, cool. And if not, you owe people a lot of money for nothing, right? And so we think of it as very high stakes, but like, yo, there are so many writers and actors in my family. They might not know that they're that, but they are that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it is we sort of, and I'm super guilty of this, where it's like, is that person a real actor? Is that person a real musician? And what I mean is, like, do they have a career, right? Mm-hmm. But these are ancient forms of self-expression that all revolve around trying to articulate your experience in the world. Mm-hmm. So that teacher being like, all right, we're going to break this down to, like, the elemental pieces of human self-expression. I'm going to teach you something and watch you learn something about yourself. Mm-hmm. That's like, I mean, come on, bro. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Yo, it was fire. You know what I mean? And it was like, and honestly, I think, because that was like freshman year heading into like that summer, you know what I mean? And then that next year, a hip-hop theater course was being offered. So I ended up taking that hip-hop theater course, right? But because of, like, what I told you about, like, growing up and being surrounded by hip-hop and all this stuff, but also, right, this experience that I had in an acting class with, like, doing a Last Poets poem. You know what I mean? And then a hip-hop theater thing pops up, and I'm just like, man, let me explore what even that is. Because, like, I never heard of hip-hop theater, right? Yeah. I thought they were two separate things. And then in taking that class, like, I end up like befriending a whole lot of people in that class. Many of us are still friends today, you know what I mean, right? But like, that's where me and Jaquita actually got close.
Uh-oh.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Romance.
And then like out of that, right?
And now you have a child?
But that's right. Like now we're married.
Shout
but
out
it's
Zosie.
like, but I look at it and I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe if we don't explore the Last Poets, maybe I'm not interested in hip hop theater.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm not saying that, like, well, I don't know. How do you feel about this? Like, I feel like so many of the moves in my life revolve around just luck. Mm-hmm. The good fortune of having someone explain something to you the right way, and then you're like, oh, well, goddamn, I get it now. I'll do that. Whereas, like, the exact same concept explained by a tyrant or a fool can be like, well, maybe I'll build my life in opposition to this. You know what I mean? And it's like, we both went to NYU. You were a couple years ahead of me. Perhaps significantly older than me. But
Right, let's just.
But remember when he said tapes? I gotta be honest with you. I have never bought a tape that I played at home.
Remember when I said Quad City DJs and he was like Tampa Tony? And I was like, all right, let's just. He's like, what about Rated R? And I was like, okay.
I need that song, In Here Tonight is one of the hardest joints ever. I'm not a DJ like your wife, but if I ever DJ a party in LA, I'm gonna play In Here Tonight, and people are gonna be like, "What is this?" And I'll be like, "This is the hardest."
This
ever.
is magic. That's what this is.
No, it's just like, I don't know, man. Like the reason I bring up the school stuff and the generation stuff is because like it's kind of the luck of the draw what teachers you get in your life. You know what I mean? Even at institutions that you like spend an arm and a leg to go to risk it's just like I'm really in awe of good teachers. You know what I mean? Because a good teacher is just someone who explains something so that you understand it. And explain something to you. Because there's a way where I could explain Joseph Campbell at you, and because I'm wearing sunglasses, you can't tell I'm looking past you. And I'm just like wanting to hear myself talk and prove that the way you teach is by like what that teacher did. That was Ted?
Ted, yeah.
And Ted, you have a piano teacher named Ted. See there's something about these Theodores. But I never had any teachers named Ted. But it's like, I don't know, man. There's something really moving about the specificity of that, getting into your, not only like your background and your psyche, but expanding your horizon. And I bet you that was extremely educational for everybody else in the class. Sometimes the greatest lessons for me weren't what a teacher told me. It was watching a teacher work with somebody else, and then I had my own realization. You know what I mean? And it's funny, man. Like, even it's not to like too meta for a second, but like even what this podcast shit is, I was like, I don't know. Like, I to be. This is also, there's a story in here about the longevity of friendship and collaboration and honesty, because we with Jaquita and Johan, we talked about like, oh, we should start a podcast, right? And we did like one round of it. And I remember I called Jaquita like a month later after having not mixed this, and I was like, I think that if I'm going to undertake this thing, unfortunately, it has to be the literal Chris Gabo show. Otherwise, it's not. I can't start a band at 33. You know what I mean? I was like, this has to. And Jaquita was like, God bless. And I was kind of nervous. She was going to be mad or something. And I was like, that is so. That's a collaborative spirit. And that's also somebody who actually loves you. Do you know what I'm saying? Being like, yeah, the choice you should make is this choice, right? And then I gestated on the idea for the podcast for so long because I was like, what the fuck am I going to talk about? And then I was like, actually, it's my friends, bro. The people in your life are your life. I was like, if I can just like get people to trust my taste in human beings, and dude, every time like your friendship is, especially in the arts where we're supposed to be competitive with each other, friendship is an art in and of itself. Do you know what I mean? And I just, I'm so grateful for your friendship and for your collaboration and for your like, because you become a culture of two, and then you become a culture of three in this friend group, and then a culture of, I was like, bro, I was just remembering the other day when we were in college and I started a Black Moniker Theater Company, and I remember I sent you a logo, and I was like, what do you think of this? And you were like, it looks like you're advertising a sushi restaurant. And I was like, that's the funniest, meanest, accurate. We're scrapping that logo. No, you don't like the cursive? But, all this to say that, like, it's, we produce culture and we are produced by culture, right? And like my initial thought when I was in all this stuff, I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, the two things I want to talk about are really, if I'm on my couch by myself with my friends and family, I want to talk about rap music. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about, like, you know, all the art that is in the middle of that. And it's funny because, you know, I rarely ever necessarily want to talk about TV writing, even though that is what bought this marble table. Mm-hmm. But, like, I do want to talk about acting with you. I don't want to talk about acting with a lot of other people in LA because I am a snob. But no, it's like, you know, but it's like, you know, because even though we met at NYU, I didn't know, like, I didn't have a shared vocabulary with you as an actor until I went to Maggie Flanagan. Mm-hmm. And you convinced me to go to Maggie Flanagan. And that was only because, you know, I went to school for dramatic writing and acting. When I got out as a writer, I felt like I had something. As an actor, I did a movie and I was like, I know enough to know that this is luck. Mm-hmm. You know, you were always just fucking spectacular. I'm gonna tell a little anecdote, not to embarrass my man over here, but like, this guy has read 300-page drafts of plays of mine like every weekend for the last 20 years, like literally. And I realized early, I'm a defensive writer, right? I try to write so that, especially when I was trying to be a playwright, which I failed at, but like when I was trying to do that, I was like, look, if you have an opening night, inshallah, you have that problem. If you have an opening night, why? And this person books 2 days on Law and Order, but the New York Times is coming that night. How do you get them to stay in the room other than their loyalty to you? People act out of self-interest. That part needs to be the illest shit ever, that they can't fathom that Gerard is going to come in and play your part. You know what I mean? Like, they can't fathom that. So you have to write, like, I was always watching you. I'm like, how do I keep this guy interested? And I remember the day I learned something about you, because it was like a 300-person play. And I wrote you one scene. And then we did it at Intar. And I was like, I have to write Alani the lead every time because no one's fucking with him. It changes the whole play. Like, it's like, well, it's about that guy. So now now I have to fucking make sure that the part, if I write it for him, that part has to be the sun and everything has to orbit around. Otherwise, the play is going to be out of whack. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you tore the theater down. You really did. And I was like, oh, you know, I went to school for, here's a little tip. I have some, you know, a lot of my, like, friends who are, I don't know, who are white, who wanted to study theater or whatever, and, like, their complaint is like, oh, my parents they don't want to support me getting a BFA and MFA because it's whatever. I'm like, yo, tell your parents, here's the deal. Tell your parents you want to be a musician. Then they'll beg you to go to Juilliard or whatever. I mean, at least something they can have a bumper sticker for. You know what I mean? Like, I was 17, I was like, you know, I was on tour. I was making rap records, and I thought that I was like, okay, I didn't have goals to be like Jay. I was like, oh, I'm humble, man. I want to be like worth like, I want to be able to fill 150 cap clubs in 30 American cities, rinse and repeat for the rest of my life. I was touring on spring break. I was touring in the summer. So I was like, okay, the reason the tours are truncated is because I am a child and I am in school. But once school's over, then I'll go do that. And then my parents were like, bro, we're the first people in our family to go to college. You this is supposed to be another you have to go to college for something. You know what I mean? So, like, and I had been writing plays at the time. I was, you know, I'd be on these, like, wagon wheel tours of the Carolinas or whatever, and there was all this time before sound check, and I would write these plays. And then I would come home, and we would, like, you're going to love/hate these numbers. There was this theater. So I used to play all the shows I played, like, where I cut my teeth was in Ybor City. Right, you know Ybor City? Yeah. So across the train tracks from like 7th Avenue and all that stuff, there was a little theater, a 60-seat raked theater. You could rent it for $300 a month. I just took the rap money and just like booked the theater. I was like, okay, we can do a play. Right. But the plays were the hobby, and music was like, oh, that's a career. You make money from that, not the other way around. You know what I'm saying? So like, to me, when I got to school, I felt like it's a crazily privileged thing to say because, like, my parents really supported me doing this thing, but I felt like I was making a compromise. I was like, yo, rap is a young man's sport. Music is a young man's sport. You're not like, I don't think I'm going to come out of here more spry on the music shit. I think I'm going to have transitioned into being a writer and an actor, which is not as cool. I didn't think acting looked cool until I saw you do it. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. But again, I'm only meeting you because of the caliber of the writing. And I wanted to be like you and Eda Mary Show and those guys as an actor. And everyone who I thought was good, you were already good at NYU. But everyone else who was like adults that were good had all gone to Maggie Flanagan or had all studied Meisner in some capacity, right? Mm-hmm. And so you were the one who convinced me to go to that. But once I was there, I was like, am I just like really far off the path now? Because what if the acting thing, look, I write myself apart in everything I write just because like, hey, if Anthony Ramos is sick, can I do it? You know what I mean? But like, I love acting, but the business of it, I did not have the stomach for it for a day, bro.
Oh, the business is terrible.
No, I mean, dude, can you read that thing? When
What?
we were coming in, you were reading a breakdown, and I was like, this is the type of shit you have to deal with.
Well, I can't because that's illegal.
Oh,
but
sorry. Okay.
I will say that
illegal?
it's...
All right, sorry.
I mean, you get in trouble. It's supposed to be confidential, NDAs, all that type of things. But, like, no, it's bullshit. You know what I mean? You're just like, what is this? You want me to what?
Yeah, it was like a can I paraphrase? Is that legal for me to paraphrase? I'm not going to do that. Anyway.
I'll say this. Like... You'll be surprised the number of like, and this is kind of business related, but it's like if you get bogged down you can get bogged down just in the character descriptions and you read those and you're just like, what the hell is this, right? Like I had an audition that I went on one time years ago that I can talk about because it's already been done, right? But like the character description was something along the lines of like they wanted you to be they wanted African-American black actors, but you had to be like safe. And they said safe like Taye Diggs. And I was
they
like,
said the word safe?
Yeah, they were like safe.
Okay, that was better than anything I could.
They were like, and then they were like, like Taye Diggs. And then they mentioned someone else, but I was just stuck on the Taye Diggs. And I was just like,
I was stuck on safe.
I was also stuck on safe. But I was also like, the fact that you then had to tell us the type of black actor you believe to be safe, and I'm just like, bro, you know what I mean? Like but like those are the types of like things that you'll see, right? Just based off people who just don't understand like people, and like the fact that you don't need to say any of those things,
Well, I guess it comes to, this is what it comes down to is people. You know what I mean? Like, do you like people or do you not like people? Those are the two categories. That's the difference between a Stephen Adly Guirgis and a David Mamet. Right. I'm like, David Mamet's right-wing politics are because he doesn't like people. And you look at the play, he doesn't like people. You could say, they talk really fast. I fucking hate those plays. You don't have to comment on that. I don't give a fuck. But that guy also does jiu-jitsu. But, I got to get back in the... Anyway, I'm not going to go there. What I'm saying is that when I read Steven's plays, it gave me the feeling of the music shit. I was like, oh, this, and he was obsessed with people. Mm-hmm. To me, if I was like, had to do another thing, if I was any good as a photographer, I'd be like, oh, I want to be like, low rent B-side Nan Golden, because all she did was take pictures of her friends and like, she thought they were beautiful. The question in this life is, do you think other people are beautiful or do you only think you're beautiful? And if you only think you're beautiful, and look, it's good, self-love is whatever, but it's great. But like, if you are not interested in other people, I know for a fact that I can sense it in your art and that I'm not going to be interested in the art. And that goes for, it doesn't matter if it's rap music, Italian opera, fucking figure skating. I mean, I brought up figure skating slightly sarcastically, but also like, you know how much you have to love and trust another person for them to lift you by the fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, and spin around in front of, like, you have to be fundamentally interested in other people. And I could always see in your performances, in Jaquita's performances, like, you guys, you cannot create that behavior without being fundamentally interested in other people. Mm-hmm. You have to want that, And like, that's when I started the premise, like kind of ideating around the podcast and shit, I was like, oh well, like it's about hip hop, and then I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, yes, music, but it's about the culture, you know. Not to be like, okay, I know that you're older than me, but I sound really old when I start talking about the elements. But when I was coming up, it was understood that you had to at least. It wasn't enough to rap because we all knew that rapping came second. Mm-hmm. The DJ came first, and you kind of had to be able to write graffiti or DJ or do a couple, like do at least. And this is in Tampa, Florida, like the least hip hop city on some level in the world. So like sometimes when I hear cats from like the Mecca from New York or whatever who like didn't have a relationship to like the elements and the culture and the each one teach one of it all, I can't relate to it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? And like, I mean, that's again why like I didn't understand. Like Safia put me onto the Joe Budden podcast, and now I listen to it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's because there's an epidemic of loneliness, and it's fun to hear guys laughing. You know what I mean? Just talking for 4 hours, you can put it on in the background. But like, I didn't know about Joe Budden as a rapper, right? I came to his. No, I know.
I know you're young.
No, it's interesting.
I didn't say nothing,
dude. One of Safia's homies who's like this beautiful, beautiful novelist. She was like, "Oh yeah, Joe Budden was my favorite rapper," and I was like, "Oh, I know him as a podcast guy." And I went back and listened to the records, and I was like, "Yeah, that's why I relate to the stuff even when he's talking about art at all, because the guy's a fucking artist."
Yeah. I can also say, like, the thing that's most interesting to me about Joe Budden now is, and it might be the same thing that's interesting to me about, even going back to you when you're just like, rappers turn actors. It's the folks who have like reinvented themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like in the handful of like episodes of like Joe Budden that I've seen, right? There's always like a moment where someone is like trying to get him to return to rapping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like so funny to me, and just him being like, I don't do that no more. But everyone's like, come on, man, you ain't got 16 in you right now. You know what I mean? He's just like, no, I don't do that.
Have you heard his Drake disses?
Yes.
They're incredible.
You know what I'm saying? Right.
As anyone, like, they're better than the Pusha T joints to me. Like, just on the level of like spiritual, miracle, lyrical, just on some rap shit. You know what I mean? Like,
that's right. But like, I don't know. There's something respectable about someone who is that good at a thing, right? And then them to be like, yeah, but now I want to try something new. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like what also got me so interested in like Andre 3000's, right? Like, New Blue Sun, you know what I mean? Like, to be that good at a thing and then to be like, yeah, but now I want to try something new. It's like to me, it's like that is like a raw form of like artistry that I feel like, like the risk-taking part of it that I feel like, all of us have to like keep alive, because without it, it's like, how are we going to keep growing,
Well, some people don't have an appetite for that. Some people just want to be told they're good. Mm-hmm. I actually felt like at one point I was worried that like maybe I had the opposite thing in a bad way, where I was like, am I just addicted to being a beginner? You know what I mean? Where I just like being at the building block of like, what is this? Okay, a pawn moves forward. Like, explain it to me like I'm a baby. I love being explained something like I'm a baby. You know what I mean? Like, especially as an adult, it's interesting. You know what I mean? This is kind of a tangent, but I heard this thing recently about how basically there's a critical learning period when you're like, an infant, right? And that's why you like learn a language real quick, or you learn a motor skill real quick. But they're basically like hallucinogenics, like they talk about LSD, MDMA, and ketamine. Like, people go, oh yeah, it's a trippy drug. I'm like, yeah, but what if you talk to a neuroscientist, what it means is that they reopen a critical learning period in the brain. So that and there's like it's measurable in scientific terms. So it's like, I think with MDMA it's like 4 weeks. So for 4 weeks your brain is open. And I was like, yo, I'm so glad I know that. I mean, like, I don't think I wasted my 2 acid trips, but it's like now I'm like, oh shit, like I had this idea the other day where I was like, oh, I should like do acid and then be like, I'm gonna learn Italian and get back into jiu-jitsu for day one. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like I'm not saying I'm not going
I
to
didn't say anything at all. I said
Yo,
nothing. I just shook my head.
But you shook your head as if I was suggesting being drunk in the gym. That's not what I was saying. No, the 4 week,
Listen, I'm not going to say that it hasn't happened, but I'm just going to say
not from me.
I didn't say anything at all. I'm just saying.
He's talking about must be other people in his. Oh, Jesus Christ, bro.
They might not have been drunk. They might have been under the influence of something.
Yeah, not me. He's talking about other people.
So I'm just saying it's probably not a good idea.
No. I'm saying like you do. First of all, as it only lasts like 12 hours.
Right? See what I'm saying? Now he wants to
then
within the 12-hour window.
No.
He's like, I got to go against all the black belts.
Oh man, I did not think that I was gonna be here defending the two things I know about neuroscience, or anecdotally, but I'm saying like after. So once you're done with the drug part of it, for 4 weeks with MDMA and for I think 3 weeks with LSD, your brain is open to new shit.
I see what you're saying.
And it's easier to learn. So, see, he is coming back to me, but I did have to explain my position. He thought I was going to be like, oh, get in my guard, bro. My pupils are the same. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. He was like, don't come to my gym with all that.
By yourself.
No, oh my, it's it's like the Midnight Run. He's like, what did I do to gain this reputation? Has that phone ever rung with a complaint about me? No, but anyway, that was a crazy tangent. But I just been thinking about, I just, bro, the thing that I've always respected about you and like seen, like the thing that I see in myself that I see in you that I was like, oh, we're gonna be friends forever, is like the desire to learn, and I always say this thing where it's like, humble before the form, the opposite in the storm, right? It's like when you have to go out and sell it, yeah, you have to be, bro. As a rapper, if you're not like, I don't want to hear humble raps. I don't want to be like, yo, I'm just as good as the next guy. Don't do that. I don't want to hear that. But when you're off the mic, you're like, yo, I'm in an oral tradition of since the beginning of history, communication, and then an art form was invented in 1975 during the John Lindsay administration. Like, you have to like be humble before the form, right? Like, you're one of those people where I was like, oh, okay, like this guy, if this guy wanted to be an asshole, he could be an asshole. You're good enough. But then I realized like the people who are really good usually resist the temptation to be an asshole because they don't fucking want to be. Whereas, and also because being an asshole, like putting up all this stuff around yourself, now people can't tell you anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you can't learn. So now even if it's not from like the ooey gooey, I'm a good person shit, it's like you're actually cutting yourself off from a thing that you desire, which is to learn. Like I look at, man, I'm not going to say the names of some people that I've worked with, but I'm like, oh, that person's work sucks now because everyone's scared of them. They're scared of giving them feedback.
Right.
And that's a symptom of arrogance, right? If you are humble enough to know, or dude, even just the desire to be a forever student is a humble thing, because most people want to be, I want to be a master, I want to be a master, I want to whatever, and like and you're chasing that. I cannot relate to that type of person. That's like a thing that it like repels me. You know what I mean? And the thing that attracts me to other artists is like, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker wants to just like figure it out, and every day's new, and you can't step into the same river twice. You know what I mean? You've always had that, and I've always really admired that.
Well, I appreciate that, bro. But also, it's like in the mastery of something, right? I think I'm learning this from jiu-jitsu, right? Is that like all the black belts, they are masters, right? It's like once they receive that black belt, then jiu-jitsu becomes something that they could teach if they so choose, right? But then there's also something to be said about, but that black belt is going to be the one belt that you have for the rest of your life. It is the one belt that you have the longest, right? And then there's different degrees to that belt. And then at some point there's like a coral belt, and then there's a red belt, you know?
What is coral? Is it this?
it is kind of like if I look like the ones that I see, they're like I'll pull up a picture of it, but it's like it's
you
just
better pull
like
the picture so fast or keep talking
But
because
it's
you know what I
like
mean. We don't have
there's-
the time to edit this.
I mean, whatever. But it's like there's it just reminds you, right, that it's like there's always more to learn. You know what I mean? Because it's
Not
like,
everyone thinks that.
Yeah, but it's like I think more people probably need to like go into jujitsu. You know what I mean? Or like do something. You know what I mean? But it's just like at some point, right, like you're gonna find somebody who knows more about that form than you do, more about acting than you do, more about storytelling than you do, right? And if you're humble enough and open enough to always be trying to learn something new every day, you know what I mean? Like, then you're going to learn something new from everyone. Doesn't matter what level they are, right? Like when I teach, right, I tell the students this.
Talking about teaching acting.
Yeah, when I teach acting, right, like I sit in the class and I learn something new from everyone who goes up and works.
Yeah.
Right? That is not something I expected, right? That was something that I was surprised to learn, right? Like today I learned something new from one of the students who has been struggling for weeks. And like today they unlocked something and I was like, damn. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm gonna go write that in my journal, you know, just the perseverance to just keep struggling until it makes sense to you. And then to still go up there, right, and be like, hey, right, I might fall on my face again, and that's okay. Because this one moment made sense. You know what I mean?
That is a function of humility and a function of bravery. Right? Like, to me, you don't hear a lot of people at a certain level say, dude, okay, I have to make fun of this. I had a teacher whose name I will not name at NYU who was like, well, I'm a teacher now because I've accomplished everything that I set out to accomplish in acting. And I looked up them up on IMDb. I was like, no, you fucking didn't. No, bro, that is delusion.
He might have.
And no,
He might have.
no, he didn't. And if he did, why am I learning from you? Bro, if 3 episodes of NCIS and you're like, well, I'm Meryl Streep now, so I think I can just teach this thing then you're an idiot. You're a buffoon. It's buffoonery. It's Dunning-Kruger. You know what I mean? It's like, that's insane. Whereas, like, you wouldn't hear that, what you just said, you would not hear that from this individual.
Right. I mean, there might be something said to, like, he was trying to argue on behalf of this person who, like, I mean, you know, to each his own, right? But I think also there's something in the humility of what you're saying, right?
I'm not known for my humility, by the way. No one's like, that guy is like, you know, but I'm just kidding.
No, it's like, I mean, like the more I think about that, the more I'm like, I guess that would make me sad. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But also I look at it and I'm just like, well, if I'm being honest, there was a point in time where I thought I had achieved everything that I thought.
But you had achieved a lot. Like, I remember.
No. I mean, literally. Like, because I, like, you might not know this about me, right? But, like, I knew so little about, like, acting and it being a profession and that profession being something that I could do, right? Like, you know, me from, like, Fort Myers, Florida, right? Like, I love my city, you know what I mean? And also, it wasn't like movie stars that came out of our town, right? Like, famous athletes came out of our town, you know what I mean, right? Like, there was, like, 1 or 2 things that you was doing, right? Like, so, like, those were the examples, right? If Denzel was born in Fort Myers, maybe my outlook on it would have been different. So, for me, I just wanted to be in one movie. That was literally my goal. I used to lie to people and be like, yeah, you know, I want to win 10 Oscars or whatever the fuck. Like, I didn't care. I really just wanted to be in one movie. And then when I was in one movie, I was like, oh, huh. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, this isn't, now what? And it's the now what that I don't think that a lot of people might give themselves permission to ask that question, right? It might be a thing where you're just like, I did accomplish everything I wanted. I just wanted to be a guest recurring on a television series, and that was it. Cool. You know what I mean? But, like, now what? would lead you to the next chapter of a thing. Now what is how you end up being Ice-T, right? On Law and Order for 37 years or whatever it's been. You know what I'm saying?
Start collecting horses.
You start collecting horses.
I got a brown one, a white one. I got a white one with a brown tail.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how you become $40 million whatever, right?
And look, I always say it, so I'm like, I like money. I don't love money. You know what I mean? If I loved money, I would have made different decisions.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Castle.
I felt today I was like, I'm not gonna move. I think this is actually like beautiful to. It's I don't know. It's this thing of like, it's very beautiful for you to share that story. Like my goal was to be in one movie, right, dude? Again, like now as an adult, I'm like, yo, I want to play Terminal 5 before I die. It's a 5,000 cap venue. When I was a kid, again, my heroes were broke. Bro, I met them. They were worth $2,000 a show.
Right.
Which is like, I thought that was fucking a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. But it's not like in this town, when you talk about musicians, that's like, if that's the peak. I'm talking about $2,000 a show at the Grog Shop in Cleveland. And that was like peak career. Mm-hmm. This individual, I won't name, but it was 3 days before he died, he was making that. You know what I'm saying? Something around that. And I wanted that, you know? But it's like, again, I mean, and then, you know, when I felt like I was in the chess game with my parents where they were like, we will pay immigrant blood money, cash, for you to go to a school if you go to a school for something you can go to school for.
Right.
And if I had been like a little more, I don't know, something, if I had known that I could have gone to NYU for like audio engineering, that's how people go to school to be a rapper low key, where they're like, I'm going to learn to do his shit. And then I'm going to 4 years come out. Questlove's my teacher. Get the fuck out of here. And by the way, I know guys who did that who are making money in the music thing, and I'm jealous of them. You know what I'm saying? Right. But it's like, once I was very aware of how much the school cost and how much there wasn't a financial aid situation there. So then my goal became, all right, if it costs $200,000 to go here, then my goal is to, in the field that I went to school for, make $400,000. Because then at least I was like, I made the money back, and then I made it once. Mm-hmm. So once I started making money from the writing thing, I was like, oh, well, now I'm not a bum. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, because it was, you know, it was a lot of people. Dude, I remember there was kids who went to that school who like graduated, and then the fall the next year they were like first day of nursing school. I was like, you didn't even try. Bro. It's like, and that's the thing about art is it can be taught. You can learn how, but you can't make someone be interesting.
No. I also would say there's a beauty in, Terrell said this in while we were doing the brother size, right? And it took me like 2 days to actually take it in. And he was basically talking about how he's seen his show done a bunch of times, blah blah blah, and the things that we're doing up there, right? Like, he realizes that like not everyone can do. And like, I'm the type of person, because I was raised by a teacher and because I also teach, right? I'm just like, you know, everyone can do a thing, you know what I mean? But like, with each passing day, right, I'm becoming okay with the fact that like you can teach someone to act, you can teach someone an artistic skill, you can teach them all these things, right? But like, one, they have to be willing to learn it, right? And two, not everything is for everyone.
Yep.
Right? They may come out and say that they want to be an actor or a rapper or whatever it might be, right? And then you realize all the work that goes into that thing, and you realize you're not willing to put in that time, you know? And then you have to have a conversation with yourself to be like, well, then what am I willing to put in that amount of time for, right? And it's like, you know, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have like, I don't know, had a teacher, right, who first semester, right, is like, go grab some Last Poets and let's see if you're willing to put in the time.
The story's amazing.
You know what I mean, right? And it's just like, and you know, the blessing of continuing to have those moments, right? Like whether it's the lab intensive or whatever it might be, right? You know, someone gives you 300 pages of a play. Are you willing to put in the time to read it? Right? Are you willing to put in the time to break down your scene and do the best that you can, right, at whatever this venue is? You know what I mean? And I think that, like, you know, now at 39, right, I'm starting to realize, like, the power and the responsibility that comes with being an artist and being okay with that power and that responsibility. Because it's like that gift and that responsibility was put in us for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, my ancestors did
100%.
this. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like
100%.
Yeah, we do have to go to the school and then make that $400,000. You know what I'm saying? To make sure that, like, my parents understand that, like, you know, thank you.
Do I respect them? Because otherwise, you don't
saying?
respect the
That's
money.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you don't understand. You don't respect the sacrifice. You don't
At
respect
all.
the time, right?
I always said that. I was like, yo, like, I can't do all of this and let them do all of this and then write Hot Tub Time Machine. You know what I mean? Except now, after
Ain't
the
nothing
strike,
wrong
yeah, actually,
with
why
Hot
don't we do
Tub
that?
Time
Honestly,
Machine.
now might be the time. We wrote the night.
Matter of fact, all this music and playwriting he talking about, right? Like, we ain't gonna put out there where you live, but I say you should be watching musicals every night.
I was gonna call. Yo, I wanted. There was so much. Alani, listen, we have to wrap this up, but fuck. I had like a list. Okay, you better come back. You're going to be at episode 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Listen, oh man, I got the light. Reef did give me the light, and I had a whole other thing. Okay, you know what?
Save it for next time. Save it for next time.
I'm going to save it next time. I want to say just thank you so much
to our
for making the time.
sponsors, to your wife,
yeah.
for giving us the
Savia
space.
Hello is the sponsor. Is there anything you want to plug? Do you want people to follow you somewhere? Do you not want people to follow you on social media? Is there anything you want to say?
Nah, I just want to say thank you for the time. You know what I mean? Like, this is a dope combo. You know what I mean? And like, I look forward to us doing it again. You know, maybe
we're gonna have to because we didn't even get to like the first thing on my outline. So, thank you so much. Shout out Reef Loretto. This has been
episode 3,
the Chris Gabo Show. You guys get home safe from wherever you're listening.